This video may save someone's life. Consider this scenario. Congratulations, you have just survived a destructive volcanic eruption, or at least a phase of it, as you saw a lethal pyroclastic flow pass by, but ultimately missed where you were. How you found yourself in this position is unimportant, as what matters now is survival. And now, if you want to survive, you need to follow this one piece of advice at a minimum. At all costs, when you can, avoid any thick pyroclastic flow deposits, especially in riverbeds. Also, avoid any visibly degassing holes in such deposits, as very thick pyroclastic flow deposits can form their own fumaroles, like seen in the aftermath of Novarupta's 1912 eruption. But why exactly am I telling people this? Simple. These deposits can, without warning, randomly explode at any moment, sending many tons of rock into the air over a large radius, alongside super hot material which would cause instant third-degree burns if it fell upon a person. Such explosions are not always small either. No. They can form craters up to 60 meters or 197 feet wide. For example, here are a few instances of these secondary explosion craters in the aftermath of the major eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. While these explosions were most abundant in the hours, days, and weeks following the May 18, 1980 eruption, they continued intermittently occurring at a rapidly declining rate until a full year later. But why do these explosions happen? Well, even if you do live in a super dry desert environment such as Arizona, there are naturally patches of shallow groundwater or even springs that seemingly pop out of nowhere. Places where water can pool from precipitation, or in more wet or colder climates there are also active rivers, mud, snow, and glacial ice. All of these features contain water that can be potentially buried by hot eruption deposits well above the boiling point of water. Such burial from hot deposits most commonly occurs from fragments left behind during a pyroclastic flow or pyroclastic surge, but can also occur if a hot lahar remobilizes hot eruptive material from upslope and transports it downstream. Theoretically, even recent thick volcanic ash deposits can also generate this potential hazard, although I personally do not know any specific examples of such only involving airfall volcanic ash. Regardless, once buried, heat from hot material radiates outwards in all directions, and some of this is captured by a body of underlying water or ice if it exists. If this occurs for long enough and the material is hot enough, the water or ice can flash to steam. Since a quantity of water expands in volume by a factor of 1700 when it flashes to steam, this can cause a huge amount of stress and pressure to build up. This steam can then continue to build until it forces its way through a path of least resistance, which in this case is upwards, breaking through overlying eruptive deposits in an explosion. These explosions, if large enough, can even create their own distinct up to 1 mile high plumes and eject blocks of hot material. This is why you should, if there are hot eruptive deposits still on the ground, avoid low-lying areas where water would typically drain into, such as riverbeds or obvious drainage channels. Groundwater or buried ponded water is far less likely to exist on locally higher topography such as incline ridges, so escaping out of a disaster area via high ground, assuming you are traveling away from the recent eruption's source vent, is a good idea in my opinion. However, the thickest pyroclastic flow deposits do not always occur closest to their source vent or in a drainage. Sometimes they can be influenced by regional topography and occur in other areas. The thicker the deposit is, the more potential energy and thus heat there is, hence why such areas should be avoided. If an area is fairly flat and you have no choice but to travel through hot pyroclastic flow or lahar deposits, in my opinion you should travel perpendicular as much as possible to the vector such deposits originated from. This way, you'll cross thinner and thinner deposits until they vanish altogether. The further away you can get from an area of thick and hot eruptive deposits, albeit away from an eruption's source vent, the safer you will be. While this isn't a great telltale sign, you should avoid areas of such deposits where visible degassing, especially steaming, is occurring. Such degassing indicates that enough heat exists in an area as to have the theoretical capability of generating an explosion. However, don't expect all areas with this potential to have visible surface degassing. Now, I want to remind everyone that my opinion-based advice will not keep anyone 100% safe, as if you find yourself in such a scenario, you will be at great risk. However, the hope is that my advice reduces the risk during such a future scenario if it ever occurs, and makes the general public more aware of this potentially lethal hazard. While there are no statistics for how many people have lost their lives to such secondary explosions on hot eruptive deposits, I can truthfully say this. The first volcanic fatality of 2025 occurred when a person escaping the disaster area of an eruption of the Luatowi volcano in Indonesia was caught in the blast radius of a secondary explosion originating from a recently emplaced pyroclastic flow deposit, with heavy burning hot material falling on this individual. I want to reduce and hopefully prevent such deaths in the future. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member ZBroF2KYE for supporting my work.